All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna have to use that for my class that I teach because that was very entertaining, and it somewhat reminded me of back in the day when we could go to trivia night at the bars and have a good time there. But welcome to everybody. Appreciate you all joining us for this session of Ask the Expert, which is brought to us by Mad Hat Maven, and we are excited to get into our topics today. But before we do that, I'm Thomas Lopez, one of the LGBT Chamber board members, and excited to be here today. I'm part of the marketing and PR committee co-chair, so I'm ready to take some notes based on what we're going to be learning today so we can make the chamber better. Before we get into our discussion with Heather and Andrea, we are going to just talk about a few housekeeping items and just how we're going to operate today. Make sure that you are putting your name in the in your box in your bio there, so we can kind of see who you are. We encourage you to put your pronouns in there as well, so that folks can know how to address you and address you properly. And yeah, so make sure you're doing that. Yes. So, all right. So we are here for, again, our Ask the Expert series. This series we kicked off, virtually since the pandemic has started. We've talked about marketing. We've talked about managing your home and flood insurance during a hurricane. And then today we are going to talk about, again, PR. And especially in a time like this, very important for us to get an understanding of how we can use PR to our benefit from a business standpoint. So we're excited, again, that Mad Hat Maven is sponsoring this event. Yeah, let's just talk, though, about a few things in terms of how today will work. We've got the chat box. Obviously, this is a Q&A session, right? So I'm going to ask some questions of Heather and Andrea, and but if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll take your questions there as well. And then if you don't want to do that in the chat, we'll provide their contact information at the end, so you can contact them directly, so they can help you help your business. This session is being recorded, and we're on Facebook Live, so you can always catch it again later. If you're like, oh, I missed that one nugget of information, you can catch us, and we'll also put it out on the YouTube channel that the Chamber has as well. All right, if we have any issues, we've got Maureen here to help. I've called her the Wizard of Oz. She's the person behind the scenes making it all happen. So kudos to her and Stephanie for making these events seem flawless. So we appreciate their support. Alrighty, so just a few quick announcements about some of the upcoming events. We've got a number of events that we have been advertising and really encourage our members to attend these events. Some of them are sponsored by our chamber, some of them are in partnership with the Small Business Administration, and some are in partnership with the other Texas chambers, LGBT chambers, as well as the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. So there are ongoing SBA webinars to talk about PPP forgiveness, economic injury, disaster loan overview, all of those programs that were passed by Congress back in the early days of when this pandemic started. Questions that you all have still, wanting to access some of the funds, if any of the funds are available, these are good webinars to attend. Of course, it's not all about COVID. They have a number of other topics that are of interest that you should, we strongly encourage you to attend. On September the 24th, we have a virtual Biz Connect mixer. This is going to be background bingo, which will be sponsored by Jelvin's Candy Shop. I'm sure it's going to be a sweet event. And if you are interested in what is background bingo, then I encourage you to attend on September the 24th. On the 25th, I talked about some of our partnerships with the NGLCC. They host every other week, it's a Sip and Pitch Fridays. We've had Jelvins from our chamber participate in these events, and it's a good way to hype your business, get some feedback from some business experts, and in friendly fire, so to speak, to share what you're doing from your business standpoint, and more importantly, get some exposure to a wider audience. I mean, it's been not fun, I guess, being in virtual land, meeting with everyone. But I think one of the real unique opportunities we've had with doing everything online is now we have access to different people more on a regular basis that we didn't have before. These NGLCC Sip and Pitch is one of those. examples of events where we can, again, grow our reach as business owners to a wider audience, which is important during this time. All right, and then October, we get into LGBT History Month, and what a better way to kick it off than an inclusive business funding for the LGBT community webinar, which is hosted by SBA and will feature Tammy from our chamber, who will talk on that topic as well. This one you may have remembered was supposed to be scheduled back in August, but due to the hurricane that unfortunately didn't hit us, but unfortunately hit our friends east of us, was postponed. So this event is now happening on October the 7th. So it's a webinar. I encourage you all to attend. And then throughout October, we've got a number of other events, including our virtual Brewing Up Business, which is sponsored by Edward Jones, courtesy of Christina Lewis and Shannon Therio on October the 14th. Again, if you're a morning person, this is a good way to do it. We used to exchange business cards, and now we just exchange pleasantries, but a good way to connect virtually over Zoom, and you get to have your coffee nearby, and it's a good way, like I said, to see some familiar faces and meet some new people and new business contacts. Of course, at the end of the month, we have our end of October, at the end of every month, we have our Biz Connect Mixers. This one is a night at the museum with the National Museum of Funeral History. Last year, we did this in person. It was, they were a new member. We got to tour the facility. I didn't attend, but I saw the pictures and it looked like a ton of fun. So they're gonna entertain us again, albeit virtually, on October the 29th. And then on November the 11th, we've got a special edition Brewing Up Business in partnership with Amagi Bank and the Combined Arms. We will be doing a Brewing Up Business honoring our veterans. So this will be a very special event that we encourage you all to attend. And then I talked about our partnerships on with the various other chambers of commerce, the LGBT Chamber of Commerce here in Texas. We've had a number of events. It started with Pride back in June. Then we had another one in August. And now we have one scheduled on November the 12th, Pride Across Texas. Again, a great way to connect with fellow members of the business community, of the LGBTQ community, and to connect with each other, to get ideas, to explore potential business opportunities. And it's another great way that the chamber is providing a valuable benefit to you all in terms of connecting with different folks and growing your business. So encourage you guys to take a look at the calendar. I sped through all of those as quickly as I could. Not because they're not important, they're very important, and I encourage you to attend. And again, if I went through them too quickly, or you want to follow up on one of these events, all that information is available online at the website, as well as on social media. So encourage you guys to attend that. All right, I think I got all the announcements underway. So before I introduce our experts, I would like to just note that yesterday, we kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, which is an annual annual event in which the government and our community recognizes the Hispanic community, and it lasts from September the 15th through October the 15th. And our friends at the Mexican Consulate, which we a while back recently announced a strategic partnership with the Mexican Consulate. They've asked us to share a video message with them saying, Viva Mexico, or Viva, in celebration and support of our Hispanic community members. And so at the end of the session, I encourage you all to stick around, and we'll share a nice message with Viva or Viva Mexico at the end of this session. So stick around, and we can show our support for our LGBTQ, not just LGBTQ, but our Hispanic community members. All right? Okay, so I did all the business. Let's get to some of the fun stuff, right? We've got our experts here. We've got Heather and Andrea from Mad Hat Maven, and I'm excited to hear from them and chat with them about PR. We've got two experts in the PR field, and Heather comes with over 20 years of experience. She's an award-winning marketing consultant and publicist. She's a creative director. She's got a list of things that she can be proud about, as well as ways she supported businesses and helping them grow and thrive. And so we're excited to talk with her. She's also brought along Andrea, who's a marketing consultant with Mad Hat Maven. She spearheads website development, staffing for fashion, staffing and technology companies. She's a creative lead, and she's one of the point people on the team. And so rather than me go through their bio, because you've heard me now talk for a good 7 minutes without even breathing, let's hand it over to our friends Heather and Andrea and get them to introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit more about themselves, and tell us maybe what is your superpower in the PR marketing world.
Well, I would say my mouth, and I know that's going to get a big reaction, but I'm a talker, and as my mother would have said, a storyteller. And so I think that's my superpower.
I would say my superpower is probably just, thinking creatively and working well with others. I think that's pretty much at the core of all of our operations here. So yeah, I mean, just being able to collaborate, I would definitely consider a superpower for sure.
Awesome. So we've got the mouth and the collaboration, and together forms part of this Mad Hat.
Pick off a meeting, eh?
We've got this wonderful, and I'm sure it's a great partnership in terms of what you guys create and produce with Mad Hat Maven. I mean, your organization, I guess bears the name Mad Hat because of the many hats you wear, right? Focused on brand, digital, social, video. Can you tell us a little bit more about Mad Hat Maven before we get into the PR type questions, just so we're clear kind of what your organization does?
Absolutely. We excel in internal and external communications, and we've worked with big companies like Chevron, Texaco, Noble Energy, and we've even worked with some smaller companies, mom and pop shops, Figure for Fashion, and nonprofits like Victory Fund and HRC and the Montrose Center. So we're very diverse in customizing communications services for what needs are and being able to customize a good fit for any budget.
Very good.
It can include website development, social media, internal communications as far as employee from supervisor, and pretty wide range of all things communications. Communications,
that's the key to everything, right? I mean, I mentioned earlier I'm an instructor at UHD, and it's all, one of the things I teach is all about communication. And in my prior life, it was in HR, it's communication. Right. 7 times 7 ways, and you guys live and breathe that. So that's awesome. So one of the things, you've been deemed the PR experts, right? And so where I like to start in terms of getting into a discussion, just make sure we're all on a level playing field. So maybe you can help us define what PR is, and so we have a better appreciation for what you guys do and for how that it translates into our businesses.
Well, I think PR, the definition of PR today is different what it was a decade ago or longer. PR has always been the spread of information, sharing it from a company or brand or person to the public, right? And it's evolved over the years on how we do that. So when I started out back in the 90s and I worked with personality PR, brands, and services, I specifically worked with the media by sending them press kits and products to test and write about, and calling them on the phone and saying, this is a great idea for a feature story. And it was getting news. It was getting editorial placements, TV, radio interviews, and now it's evolved digitally, right? So today, and as I evolved with it, when I was working in LA, MySpace became this big thing, and everybody was like, we got to understand MySpace. And so we had to understand how to use that as a tool. And so social media started to evolve under the PR umbrella, and reputation management, and how, if somebody got a bad Yelp review, how do you strategically find a way to flip that frown upside down and get people to engage again and believe in this customer. So it has evolved over the years. So that would be, it's an evolving definition as well.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating you say. I mean, the digital world has kind of flipped everything upside down, right? The speed in which information can be disseminated and the reach it has now is just, it's amazing. And so PR is really valuable in terms of maybe sometimes damage control, but also brand awareness. And that's great. I appreciate you defining that, because like I said, it helps, if we're saying PR a lot and we all don't have the same understanding, we could get really confused quickly. So that's great. How do you think we can use PR to promote our businesses? Like, what's a good way to use that PR lens so that our businesses can be better and, in the media, for example?
Well, I think what PR makes you do is define your brand and understand what you're doing and what solutions you have to offer in whether it's personality, products, or services. It makes you sit down and really think and streamline what message you want to put out there. So I think that's one. Two, I think it creates a place for you to pitch, right? So you have press releases, you have videos, you have social media, you have all of these different channels. So it gives you an opportunity to take that message, whatever your story is, and put it out there. I don't know, I think organizing, I think we all need to organize like how we're going to pitch. What media do you pitch to? There's so many departments that you look at within an industry. Do you do it on a local level? Do you do it on a regional level? Do you do it on a national level or an international level? How do you pinpoint certain markets? How do you get to the editor of Vogue? So all of these have to come into your planning stages. So it's like understanding and then planning, and then who do you reach?
Right.
And when do you reach them? Because right now we've had to be very strategic in when we say one story to the media, when we know that all the news right now is dealing with pandemic or elections. So there's a lot going on in the media. So how do you navigate your story into this big whirlwind of 2020? Let's just put it under that umbrella. How do you finesse the message and then make sure it gets to the right reporter so that you can get your message out? Sure.
Just on some of the things you described, I'm going to go off script a bit, but between PR and the marketing is another term, and what you're describing a lot is also kind of seems marketing related. Can you distinguish between the two? Or are they, do we distinguish between the two?
I mean, yes, we do. We do distinguish between the two. But I think you build a stronger foundation if you have continuity between your PR, your marketing, your sales, outreach. All of that starts to work together. And I think in the digital world, it has to work together, and we'll talk about that later. But I feel like we have to make sure that our marketing is on point and it has continuity with what we're saying out there to the media and for our social messaging and our fans and followers. And then how does that relate to the overall sales goals of what we're trying to do?
Sure. Okay. No, that's good. I, again, just appreciate that from, making sure we're all saying the same thing. So very good. You mentioned digital, that's one of the tools. You also mentioned, back when you started, it was, phone calls and those sorts of things. So what are some of the effective tools that help drive engagement for our various brands?
Well, the phone is still one of the best communication devices that we have, to actually pick up the phone and call someone. And because we've evolved with technology over the years, we can also tweet and we can also text, and we can do all of these ways to reach the people that we're trying to reach. But I also think in the PR world, PR Newswire, any kind of press release distribution platform is useful. Just simply sending out information, whether it's through a pitch letter, emails, that sort of thing, constantly connecting with the people that you want to hear about your product service, and to be able to write about it, blog about it, even if it's just to publish your press release.
Sure.
Video. We say that every day, because if you can create an electronic press kit, couple it with footage of your, even if it's just walking around your office and talking to your team and showing the culture of what you've created with your company, that's important as well.
When you say video, I mean, I have a time before I started Economy Works was working in the corporate world, and you know, we had this discussion about video in terms of, do you need this highly glossed, you know, $10,000 investment in terms of bringing in a videographer and that sort of stuff? Or can I just use, you know, this little device here and get out the video message that you guys are talking about?
Both. I think it depends on what type of story you want to tell. But statistically on YouTube, you know, if you engage your audience, they'll watch you through a pixelated screen on a tiny SE phone, right? They just want to watch. So it doesn't matter to a lot of people that want to engage with a person, place, or thing to watch it on a low definition resolution. However, it depends on what story you want to tell. We also, and we have a clip of this that we're happy to share, we did a Texaco social media video that highly engaged male drivers to not only want to, you know, start driving again and get on the open road, but to use Texaco Techron because it allowed you to drive longer, right? And expanded your fuel time. So my point is, both work.
Gotcha.
Depends on your budget.
Yeah, well, that's important because I think, you know, we hear video, I think we get, you know, we tense up because, you know, like, one, we don't want to be on video, right? Who wants to see themselves on video? But two, you think it's got to be highly glossed and highly produced. And what you're telling me is that works in, you know, in some instances, but in other instances, just picking out that device that sits in your pocket or your purse, like, that can be, hopefully, okay, I was making sure I didn't have anything untoward. Okay.
You know, we've done both. You know, we have videographers, amazing, talented, award-winning videographers on our team, and we pull them in when we can to tell a better story, right? A stronger story, and we'll edit those pieces together. But if you don't have that kind of budget, and you have a smartphone and you have a selfie stick or a tripod, you can at least relay your story. There are a lot of ways that we shot an entire video for one of our staff members for their birthday, and we did it on our smartphones, and then we edited it and we added some music, and it made our day, right? It made our day because we had a fun time making the video. But yeah, all on your smartphone. So
one of my favorite examples of that was the app Vine that was very popular for a long time. It was literally 7 seconds, and so many people now have $1 million careers because they made their start on a 6-second clip and then moved over to YouTube. So it really, again, just depends on your message and what your resources are. If all you have is a phone in 6 seconds, well, you can make it work if you're streamlining the correct message.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I guess Vine now has been replaced. We hear a lot about TikTok, right? And so, although for how long it'll be around, right? Yeah. But I mean, it just goes to show that some of the things that the technologies that are here today are gone tomorrow. You talked about early days of MySpace, right? And remember our friend, I guess it was Tom, who was our first friend, but right. But Andrea looks like she's like, MySpace was after her. No, I'm kidding.
That's not totally true.
But okay, well, that's good. And I would just invite anyone, I know that in the chat, there's some kudos going to Heather and Andrea for you guys for the work that you've done in support of the community and the various organizations you've supported. But also in the chat, you know, if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in there as well. You know, we'll take in questions. If you don't have any questions right now, then I will continue with the questions that I have. You mentioned some of the news of the day, right? The pandemic is kind of, you know, is taking, you know, the pandemic and the election are taking, you know, space, a lot of real estate on our news feeds, right? And so how do we use PR during this pandemic or other crises, or just, you know, there's so much news going out there. How do we use PR to our advantage so that we can help our businesses survive and hopefully on the other end of this thrive?
Well, I think the first thing we all have to do if we want to launch a PR strategy campaign of any type is you've got to read the news. You've got to know what the topics are out there. And then you have to ask yourself, what am I bringing to the table that's going to solve something for another person? And can I fold that into trending topics right now? Case in point, one of our clients is a dentist. I was reading the news over the weekend. All of a sudden, a story broke about TMJ and it causing cracked teeth because of the pandemic. So we immediately, started writing a new pitch about TMJ, folding in our client to that story, and then pushing that story out to different news reporters because it's current, right? And so that's just one example of how you can navigate editorial calendars and top topics. I think that the next thing you need to do is understand where you're going. I always say you need a blueprint. Otherwise, you're just pulling things out of your pocket and it may or may not work. And I think we do that with PR. We throw something against the wall, and if it sticks, awesome. And if we don't, we have to be ready to pivot. But if you don't know where you're going, then it's really hard to get there. And so I feel like the first thing we always do is put a plan together. And if you're sitting there and you say, you know what, I'm going to do my own PR. I want to create a PR strategy, then I recommend you sit down and say, September, this is what I want to do. October, this is what I want to do. And as you're reading the news and understanding what's coming down the pipeline, you can start to put a plan together that works with the timelines that are already existing in editorial. And then look at your competition. What are they doing? If I own an ice cream shop, I'm going to look at everybody else in Houston that's selling ice cream. And I'm going to see what they're doing right, and I'm going to see what they're doing wrong, and I'm going to see how I can think outside the box and do something a little different. So I feel like that makes a good pitch to the news. If we can find something that a client or a brand personality is doing, that we can flip it and make a good story out of it.
Oh, that's great. No, I appreciate those tips. They're very helpful. Can you maybe pull the string through all the way to kind of how this translates to a business opportunity, right? So you talked about the dentist and the TMJ, right? And that's news. And so you go to him and say, let's repitch your value prop. And so how does that translate? What are the next steps, right? So you're sending then news articles to customers, to news outlets. How does that translate to a paying customer? If you see what I'm saying?
I think so. So, it starts with the pitch, right? What am I pitching? So, and so maybe this is a good time to show our screen. Let's see, maybe. I think it starts with the pitch. And if you're going to, let's see here. Nope.
And I asked that in the context of, we talk about PR as this abstract thing. We know it's a good thing, but in the end, we're all using this as an opportunity so that we can, again, grow our business, right? And so, so as you kind of string that example to how it makes us some money in the end, I think that's helpful.
Let me just change. Oh no, until it's quit. Okay, so I can't. Okay, is that up there? Okay, great. Yep. So what we did to get the attention of some of the news outlets is that instead of me sending just a regular picture of this dentist and pitching TMJ or dental implants or anything about the industry or benefits of a dentist, I had a picture of him in a scuba outfit. And so I sent that to, I don't know how many media outlets with, let's make a dental splash. I gave them an email that basically said, you know what, this guy's fun. You should be writing about him. He's an expert in the following areas. Give me a call, right? And the stats from this, we had a total pickup of 103 media outlets and in total engagement of 6.5 million. Just based on the press release we put out, this picture, sending out, picking up the phone and calling, and 2,374 hits. So just because it's a normal story about TMJ, there's a great way to tell that story and get someone's attention so that all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, yeah, I want to hear more about this guy. Why is he wearing a scuba diving outfit?
Right. No, that's a great example. I mean, again, you talked about the reach now and the clicks and the engagement, and then ideally, then that just contributes to the funnel, right? Of customer calls, and then eventual sales and repeat customers, right?
Email.
So that's great.
I even tweeted some people, some reporters. We will utilize any channel that we can connect, right, with another human being. It's called H2H. Human to human contact. That's what we do in the digital world. If you don't just come at somebody with words, actually try to connect with that other human, and you'll get a better response rate.
Right, and that's interesting. You say human to human in the digital world, right? Which is
right.
Not human, but it is. You've got to make it human. So that's great.
If you like something, somebody sends something to you and you like it, or you answer, "Oh, great idea." That's engagement, right? So that's important.
Very good. I appreciate all these examples. Like I said, I told you at the beginning I was going to be taking notes, for my own businesses and for the chamber. So this is very helpful. Another question, in terms of the pandemic and the lockdown, how, and you mentioned the TMG example. So maybe you have another example, like how you can use PR to compete with other brands during lockdown, right? I mean, if no one's going anywhere or we can't have our doors open, how do we use PR to our advantage so that we can still be present?
Yeah, so a great example of that was a digital campaign that we did for the AIDS Foundation. And basically we had, Heather was talking earlier about how important it is to have a plan, but you can plan.
We had a plan.
Yeah, we had a plan. And that involved a lot of traditional sort of marketing and grassroots campaigns. And unfortunately, the pandemic happens, well, you can't do any of that anymore. So we really had to pivot. And what we did was we took all of those efforts and we put them online. There was a great deal of research, which is extremely important no matter which aspect of PR you're looking at. We did a great deal of research, and we ended up launching on various platforms some creative that was basically just trying to drive people to sign up for PrEP. Some of the results were, we got 3 times the sales versus, January, just because we went online with this. We looked at Snapchat as a strong contender because it's a quick, you're looking at a younger demographic. They're very, going to swipe up and do it quickly. We saw over 5,000 leads come from just that, so around 700 from other online ads. And basically, it's about utilizing these other platforms digitally. So, where we started out doing something grassroots, we had to quickly pivot and we turned completely digital, and we saw a lot of return of investment on that campaign.
So, I mean, and just to support what she's saying, from the very beginning, we were supposed to be going into bars, events, promoting to the press, leaving brochures behind, all of those traditional methods. But what we ended up doing was really starting a party online about play safe, stay safe, get PrEP today and play safe tomorrow, because it worked with what was happening with the pandemic. It reminded people that even though you're worried about maybe COVID right now, we still need to remember what else we need to worry about, which is keeping healthy, right? And playing safe. So by taking the party online and engaging with folks through fun media, social media channels, we were able to increase engagement by over 200%, which led to a sales increase and has continued consistently since February.
Heather mentioned one of the things that PR forces you to do is define what your message is. So whether you're doing that one way or another, in this instance, whether we're doing this in person or online, it was really important that we remembered what our same message was, but now how do we tell that in a different way that fits the current environment?
So that's where online marketing and online PR worked together, because you have your online ads, And we didn't spend a lot of money. This was a nonprofit organization, right? We didn't have a lot of money to spend. So we had to do a lot of human to human connection with just engagement, just simply making sure that we were engaging with individuals out there about our campaign strategy and having fun with it. So that's where that did come together, work together, and produce the sales results they needed.
Oh, that's great. One of the things you mentioned was the various channels, right? And since I have experts on here, I'm always keen to people in the PR marketing space. Is there an ideal channel that we should be using for our businesses? I was hoping you guys were going to tell me yes.
Well, YouTube. I mean, definitely YouTube, because video. You have like over 85% of our viewers, anybody that's online, is watching video. So you can't ignore that channel. But again, you have to look at what channel is going to work best for what you're saying. What's the message? Define it, and then understand where your audience is, because your audience may not be on Snapchat. So that's not going to be an ideal platform for you. Your audience may not, you may not have the industry trade reporters that maybe you have 3 or 4. Like, I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to sell. And so it may be that you get more general interest in your story, news reporters. So that's, again, by defining your message, you're going to define your media list and who you're going to talk to, and define each social platform that you need to target so that you can get your message out effectively.
Right. I asked, I knew what the answer was going to be. But I know, in chatting with people, and then what I do with Economy Works and, doing some marketing consultant, with our freelancers doing some marketing consultant, that tends to be the question for business owners. What's the ideal? Or they want to be on everything. They want to be on TikTok or, on YouTube. And it's like, well, is your audience there, right? Is the question, right? I mean, if you're trying to sell Medicare, or Social Security, support Social Security benefits, TikTok may not be the right answer, right? Because grandma's probably not on TikTok.
Yeah. Right. But you could also make a video and use that video and repurpose that content for different channels. So just by making one, 60-second video explaining what you do and what problem you solve, you can actually put that in an email. You can put it in a pitch to the media. We sent out a pitch with a educational video the other day. It was a very short video, but it went to all the journalists in Texas, and we had 6% click-throughs, which is high in our world. 3% is great. You're like, woohoo! 6%, you're like doing a cartwheel, and I haven't done that since I was 12. So
if you do, put it on TikTok, though.
I know, right? Never. You don't want to see that. But anyway, yeah. So that just shows, like, just by using video in even a pitch to the media is effective. So you can repurpose that content on your Facebook, on your Instagram, wherever you want. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Right, and that was one of the questions that came through on the chat. Can you use the same video for TikTok and YouTube? And
it depends. Like, sometimes we'll take content and we'll edit it for each channel, because some need to be shorter, some need to be longer. It could live on YouTube longer, right? You can put a 10-minute video on YouTube. But if you're going to advertise on YouTube with that, it's got to be shorter, right? It's got to be 30 seconds. If you're going to use that for Facebook, just be aware that not everybody's going to spend 10 minutes on your video on Facebook. Think about when you hop on Facebook. If you hop on Facebook, how long are you really there? And are you scrolling? Because I always say, if you're doing this in Instagram, are you going to watch it? No, probably not. But if you do, are you going to listen to it? So be careful and make sure you transcribe your videos on certain channels, because not everybody's going to have their sound up, especially at work.
Right. No, that's good. That's great advice. I mean, I think, it can be a confusing space, but as you describe it, it definitely more clear. Just maybe slightly switching gears from the chat, if you have recommendations for startups that can't afford a PR agency on how to reach media for coverage.
Well, so again, back to when we were talking about great practices, the first thing is to just read the news and find out what's happening in the world. How does your story fit in? if you want to tell us your story, I'm happy to give you an example, but just to make sure that you're on topic of what's happening. And if you're not happening and you aren't on topic, then you've got to find the news reporter that is, or the blogger or the radio or the podcast that is talking about your industry and that would be interested in your story. And that's when you start to organize your media lists. And maybe it's just 10. Maybe you have 10 people that, whether they're in Texas or they're, on a podcast out of Detroit, if it feels like that might help your business, then make sure that you reach out and engage with that person.
And you can certainly utilize your, your free resources. So that's just posting a regular post on Instagram or on Facebook and just continuing to talk even with your friends about your business or whatever it is you're doing, because as we all know, you whisper one thing to somebody, they're going to go tell 10 people. So that's just a free way to just have the community talking about what it is you're doing.
You can also write your own blog on your website and drive traffic to that blog from your social media, so that you are sharing with your fans and followers about the things that are most important to you, and driving them to your website to learn more about what you do, and then giving them a resource with your blog.
Right. Right. I think, one of you mentioned kind of the list of, because I think, a number of businesses I see, at least from the chamber and that are on here, they do a great job of posting on social media. But would you recommend also developing a list of reporters or influencers or things like that too? Okay.
Absolutely. Even if you just look at local resources, right? Who are your local resources? Houston Chronicle, your radio stations, your TV, your local affiliates, and just create that list. A lot of times, it's just news desk at, KHOU. So, find those contacts and then reach out to them. And don't be afraid to, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call John Doe, because John Doe has been writing about your industry and has had some great articles out there, and you want to say, hey, I'd love to send you something about my industry. I would love for you to write about us. We're doing unique things in the marketplace and blah, 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 blah. And then see if John will write.
Right. And I guess, when you hire a group like yours, is that one where you guys provide that list of resources for us, or is that how that works?
Well, we have the list. So we send it on your behalf. Anything that goes live, our clients approve ahead of time. So nothing's just put into the World Wide Web PR distribution without approval. But we send our pitches to the media, and we create press kits and so that they have all the information. Broadcast reels to give to affiliates. We can handle all of that for our clients, so they don't have to worry about it. All they have to do is approve it when we have final deliverables that are going out.
Gotcha. So that's the benefit of working with Mad Hat Maven, and getting those things. Right. Perfect. So, because like you said, there's a lot of
not relationship building, right? So even if, like I said, John Doe is the example. You and John Doe now have had a conversation. You send John something. You're starting to build a relationship. That's what we've been doing too. So we build relationships with media outlets in the different industries that we pitch to. So good relationship building online and within just human to human connection. And again, engaging with that person, and don't forget to pick up the phone. I think that's the key to a successful PR campaign.
No, that's great advice. You said this has been helpful for me. Some of the things you've been ticking off in terms of leveraging video and blog and those sorts of things, and how you leverage social media, and then your free contacts, right? So that you can again grow your presence. One of the things that you noted, what I think was interesting, just the click rate. In terms of, you said 6% or something like that. For most folks not playing in that space, they may see that as a low number, but it's important to realize that you're going to have to put, content out there, and you may not it's not going to, go viral instantly. I guess it's setting expectations there. Right.
Well, that was an email. So it wasn't something we put on the web. It was an email directly to something. So that was a good open rate and click through to our websites and our EPKs. So we felt like that was a good response. And we understand not everybody does have a budget for PR. And so that's why, and I've said it for years, if everybody could afford a publicist, everybody would have a publicist, because they don't only always make you good, they make you good in the news, they also block bad stories, tapes, just chaos that I've dealt with throughout my career, that I've buried stories. So yeah, they're good to have on your team. However, there are ways to customize approaches and strategies to target the specific things that you need to do. And that's what we've always done for our clients. So if they're like, look, I don't have a lot of money to put in PR, but somehow can we fold that service into our digital marketing? And so that's what we'll do for them, because not everybody wants a full-time publicist, but they do want some of the PR services folded into their customized service plan. So I think that's why we've managed to stay steady especially this year.
Sure. Well, kudos to you guys for that. Well, we got another question in the chat, and that may be time for just one or more. So if you guys have any burning questions, feel free to put them in the chat. The question is, how do you guys feel, the experts, feel about sponsored content?
Pay to play, it works sometimes, but usually that requires, and this is part of the media buy, right? So if I'm going to go into a media buy and I'm going to say, all right, I see that we can get this editorial, then I'm going to try to bundle a package for my client so they get better, stretch their dollar a little bit more. If it's just a pay to play article, I just feel like there should be some negotiation there. You can get a little bit more for your dollar if you try to think outside the box and make that ad person think outside the box, because a lot of these magazines are trying to catch up to the digital world, and they know that they've got to come up with packages. And in some of these smaller cities that we've worked with, when we're doing a regional rollout plan, we're saying, hey, do you have a digital package? And they're like, and we're like, well, if you give us a digital package, maybe we'll pay to play, but we're got to see a whole big advertising opportunity here rather than just a story in the news. So
right.
It also, there's an ethical, a journalistic ethical thing there too, where I'm not just going to pay to play and then that's it. I'm going to say, look, we advertise in your magazine, we'd love an editorial. So this is what I'd like to pitch, and blah, 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 blah. So that's how I would go about that.
Is that how you describe a package in terms of, you said you would try to get a package?
I would bundle it with an ad buy. Yeah, I would negotiate an ad buy that my client could afford, and then we could stretch that dollar and not only get editorial pay to play story, but other things as well.
Got it. Absolutely. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Well, any last questions from anyone in the participating? I'll take a look at the chat. I don't see anything. As maybe people race in to put in one more question. Do you guys have any final parting thoughts in terms of the PR landscape or what we should be thinking about?
Well, we do. We wanted to talk to you. We just wanted to touch base on, again, what you had said. Everything works together, and SEO works with your PR, works with your social media, and it also works on your website. So what we wanted to share is that there's organic searches, and that's through your PR efforts and through your just online engagement efforts, and then there's paid efforts, right? And we have, we went and checked our own numbers because we walk the talk, we talk the walk, and at Mad Hat. And so if you go to our website, you'll see there's a lot of time and energy put into the content strategy on our website. But we also got a lead and a prospect from New York the other day who said, I Googled digital marketing agency and Mad Hat Maven came up. So, and that's not even an area that we're spending a lot of money in. We've literally spent $150 and that lead was one of our leads back. So to show you how it all works together, I just want to make sure that if you do want to do PR for your company, step back and take a look at everything that you have out there. And again, make sure it all works together. Anything else on that?
Yeah, if I could give any last piece of advice, it would be across the board, just be patient. These sort of things don't happen overnight. Right. PR, again, it takes time to build those relationships. Social media, it takes time to build those profiles. SEO, it takes time for Google to start reading your website. So it's not going to be something that happens overnight, but when you are patient and wait and you work on it consistently, you will see the results that you're looking for.
Patience, the one thing I'm not sure many entrepreneurs have, but yeah. We're go, go, go. So, but nonetheless, it's an important reminder that patience and, is a virtue, especially when it comes to things like PR. So that's great. I appreciate all of that. And any last questions from folks that are participating? No? All right. Well, I want to be mindful of time, and also, again, a pitch to everyone to stick around so we can give our support and shout out to the folks for Hispanic Heritage Month, give our support to the Mexican Consulate. So stick around and we'll share one message for them. Of course, thank you to Heather and Andrea for helping us today and learning more about the world of PR. It's such a fascinating world, such an important aspect of what we do every day to making sure our businesses, again, survive during this time, but also thrive on the other side of it. And it's keeping, what I heard was, keeping an ear out to what's going on in the news, making sure you have a plan and making sure you know your target audience, and being able to string all that together to come up with an effective PR strategy is like paramount. So thank you for those tips. We appreciate that. We said ask the experts, and you guys surely delivered. So thank you. The contact info for Heather and Andrea are in the chat. So make sure you reach out to them to get some of their expert advice. And the recording link, as we noted, forget the background noise, will be sent via the Chamber's social media pages and on YouTube. Andrea, Heather, any last thoughts or anything before we close out?
We would show you one of our best social media. We did a PR campaign to increase the drivers for Texaco, and it'll really, it's almost 3 o'clock. It'll take 60 seconds of your life. We'd love to play it for you, just because it'll put a little zoom in your step for the rest of the day. Pardon the pun.
Very good. All right. Well,
That,
yeah.
Okay. You ready? Is it on? Are we presenting? Can you see it?
We did not see it.
Sure.
Go back to yours.
Let's see. Okay.
Go ahead.
Can you see it?
I think it's coming up. Yep.
All right.
All righty. Let's get energized. Awesome.
See, that'll get you going for the rest of the day.
Little rock.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt anybody.
There we go. Exactly. There we go. That's a good. Who needs coffee at for the end of the day? That's a good, perfect pick me up. All right. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for that final example for showing us, how PR in action, and how you can have an effective campaign, and it doesn't have to be 10 minutes, 60 seconds, and it grabs your attention, and hopefully gets the return that you want. So very good. Well, again, Heather and Andrea, thank you so much for providing your expertise today and sponsoring this event for us. We definitely do appreciate it. Everyone joining us, we do appreciate you sticking around. Like I said, we want to share a message for Hispanic Heritage Month with the Mexican Consulate. So if you guys stick around for that, we're going to stop recording on Facebook, and then we're going to record another one with the help of Maureen. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Okay.